Before the presentations begin, let's just enter a moment of prayer. This prayer comes from a prayer for racial justice. It's from St. Dominic's anti-racism team, and it was made available to us through the United Methodist Church's daily prayers for racial justice. So let's pray. Gracious God, we know that you are the source of the peace that passes understanding. In these troubled times, give us understanding minds and hearts as we listen to the cries of the oppressed and seek justice for all. Give us the wisdom to respond with your truth, offering words and actions that build up instead of tear down. Across the nation, racism casts a long shadow. We believe that all life is sacred and worthy of our deepest reverence. Give us the courage to stand up for racial justice and reconciliation. As individuals, as a ministry, as a nation, help us to see when we have missed the mark and empower us to do better. Root up any violence or malice within our hearts and minds and transform it into love. A love of neighbor, and a rightly ordered love of self. Let us work for peace and be peace to one another and to the people we serve. Amen. Now I'm going to turn the program over to Pastor John Stray of Peace Lutheran Church, longtime, very valued member of Conversations on Race, who will introduce the other participants and get us started on our workshops. Thanks.
Welcome everyone. Again, Pastor John Stray, Peace Lutheran Church in the Hilltop neighborhood of Tacoma. I am going to be one of the presenters today from Peace Lutheran Church, together with my colleague Brendan Nelson, who is Director of Community Engagement and Outreach at Peace. And we will be doing the first presentation, sharing steps and stories on our racial justice journey. And then after a breakout time, we will be blessed to hear from Pastor Larry Jones from New Salem Baptist Church in Tacoma. Very important racial reconciliation ministry we'll be hearing about. So this will be a great experience that we'll have together with that time to reflect after each of the presentations. So I'm gonna start right away and share very briefly, and then turn it over to Brendan Nelson, my colleague, to share some more stories and steps. So Peace Lutheran Church was traditionally a German-Russian Lutheran congregation. It is in the Hilltop neighborhood of Tacoma. It is a multi-ethnic, socioeconomically diverse congregation now for the last several decades. The neighborhood is gentrifying, and with that, gentrification has meant the displacement of long-tenured families, especially families of color, especially African-American families. And that's part of the calling that Peace has to racial justice. The vision that God has given this congregation is to be a diverse community of faith in the Hilltop neighborhood where all are welcome, a community that is spirit-filled, compassionate, healthy, reconciled, and just. And during the pandemic, a small group of diverse leaders from the congregation went through a visioning and discernment process, 18 months, asking, where is God calling us? What is God calling us to do to live into that very vision in this time and place in our neighborhood, seeking to share the love of Jesus? And so we came up with what was a foundational commitment to anti-racism. It arose from that prayerful process with some directions, all grounded in anti-racism that we are seeking to live into. Let me emphasize, it's a journey. We're on the journey. We have a lot to learn, but we're taking some steps. The directions are in community engagement and also in cultivating servants and leaders, and in teaching and training the values of Jesus, especially justice and peace, the ways we serve our neighbor more specifically. And in our direction in anti-racism, it's about addressing, understanding, and dismantling racism in ourselves, our church, and our community. So I'm going to share a few steps we've taken, and then Mr. Brendan Nelson will elaborate on some particular areas. So the congregation as a diverse community has shared worship and life and ministry together, and that is a beautiful mingling of a lot of different people of different backgrounds. We've discerned we need to do more. It can't be just get some folks together. We need to take some actions for racial justice. We do have a racially diverse, ethnically diverse staff and worship leadership, but we have discerned going deeper toward racial justice. So we've done that in worship symbols, and we've still got a way to go. So no longer do we use white robes. White robes, as you well know, in the history and the current reality of our nation, are very problematic and associated with white supremacy and deep harm. Also, even the color of white for the season of Easter, thinking of other colors, yellows, oranges, the sunrise. We had a white depiction, European depicted Jesus statue, and Brendan will share what happened on that journey. We went through a season of prayer as we were helping folks into this commitment to anti-racism, and the season of prayer helped us with preaching and study, step through a process that included naming racism and white supremacy as sin, and helping us to trust God into the future, to let go of biases in the direction of God's will, breaking down barriers, stepping out in risky faith. This is all out of worship and in God's presence and with prayer and imagining a new future. We've tried to have resources available and promote experiences for people to grow in deeper understanding toward racial justice. That has been this very series, the Conversation Around Race Justice series. That has meant small groups, and I'll put in the chat a little later on some books that we have used in different ways to help educate ourselves and help grow an awareness and toward action. A confronting racism process with other congregations, Lutheran congregations in our larger synod. We've sought to begin to take more community action, especially in housing ministry that Brendan will speak about, in advocacy, especially around affordable housing, and in addressing the opportunity gap in education. It's meant blessings of a lot of learning, there's been folks drawn to the community because we're doing this, new leadership arising, feeling that making a difference. There's been a lot of challenges too. It's been hard work. There's been facing pushback. There've been stumbles and mistakes and need for confession and forgiveness. There's been folks who think there's too much racism talk. We have lost members in this process. It has been a challenge. We continue forward though toward this calling. And in the future, we're developing an anti-racism screen so we can look at the ministries of the church through that screen and do some evaluation even in the direction of change. We're committing to integrate anti-racism into our church's education. We're committing to learn the racialized history of our neighborhood, the Hilltop, Tacoma, and our congregation and church, the Lutheran Church. We're committing to some training opportunities for leadership and folks in the community, an anti-racism resource center of individual learning opportunities, strengthening our racially diverse leadership, and an expanded and strengthened housing ministry and advocacy. So there's a lot of directions to go, and we're just on that journey. Please reach out if you'd like to hear some more from me. Now I'm inviting Mr. Brendan Nelson to share. Brendan, please.
Thank you, Pastor John. It's good to be with you all this evening. This is my probably like 7th conversation in the last couple of weeks around what we're doing at Peace. around anti-racism work and what we've been doing around housing. So it's just been really good to share with folks how we are addressing these issues. And then, as Pastor John shared, we are living into this every day. We have not mastered any of this by any means. This is a ever-growing process and learning. So just a couple of things I wanted to highlight and share with you. And I'll just start by saying, never would I have imagined I would end up at a Lutheran church. I grew up in a Pentecostal church. And, you know, if you know anything about the Pentecostal background, is very charismatic, is lively. But God had a reason for calling me to peace, and I'm so glad that He did, because the mission, you know, that you heard from Pastor John is, for me, is what drew me, and being able to see that mission being lived out on a daily basis is what keeps me there, keeps me excited, keeps me motivated, and I know for many others it's the same. I've been at peace for I served at the community center and now with the church for a total of 10 years now. So I've seen a lot of transition happen, but also I grew up in the Hilltop neighborhood, just blocks away from where our church is located. And my family was displaced from the Hilltop in the late 90s. Many folks from Peace have heard this story, but just really briefly, my parents, you know, the home that we grew up in, well, I grew up in, my parents wanted to purchase that home in 97. And when they approached the landlord about buying the home, he said to my dad, "I will rent to a Black family, but I won't sell to a Black family." And, you know, this is 97 at the time. And the sad fact is those types of conversations or things are still happening today, but they're showing up in different forms, whether it be through, credit checks or, you know, other barriers that folks of color are facing. We're seeing the up, you know, that racist and those racist practices showing up more and more. And you would think by 2023 we would be a little bit beyond that, but it is still evident. So I'll just talk a little bit about housing. When I first came to Peace in 2015, stepped into this role in 2015, the church had just purchased 2 homes, and it was kind of so the church had talked about the desire to do affordable housing, and it wasn't really like a high priority at the time. It was something that was desired, and then they were approached by a community member, an African-American family. The mother had passed on, and the daughter was looking to sell the homes and wanted those homes to be sold not on the market, and approached the church. And long story short, Peace purchased those 2 homes, and that opened the door for affordable housing for Peace. And it wasn't just about it wasn't just the affordable housing piece. It was the understanding that gentrification was present in our community and displacement was clearly evident. We've had many members connected to Peace. Many of them I didn't have the pleasure of meeting, but hearing their stories and knowing their family, their children, their grandchildren, of homes being in their families for 40, 50 plus years. And after the matriarch or patriarch passes away, there's nothing that the family can do to keep those homes. There are services out there, there are resources available, but access to those services and resources were very difficult to obtain. And so what we've seen, and just in my time of being at peace in the last 10 years, is just a handful of families that have lost generational wealth, generational homes that could have been passed down generationally, due to these racist practices that have been in place, right? Or being preyed upon by different lenders, using the financial situations that these families are in against them, instead of being willing to help them, using them against them. And I'll give you just a really brief example. I'm gonna use the term steward. I'm really trying to shift our language from owning property to stewarding land. We know that the land that we all sit on is not ours, so we are called to steward and be good stewards of it. So one of the homes that Peace Stewards back, I think this was like 2016, 2017, they received a notice on the door that said, we would be willing to purchase your home at, you know, this rate. And I think it was like $40-something thousand over what the home was valued at. And then there was a picture of a Black man with dreads who was the realtor. And that notice had popped up on a couple different doors throughout the neighborhood, and people were reaching out to us saying, have y'all heard about this? Or, you know, this person. And I did just a little bit of digging, and this person wasn't even connected to the Tacoma community. It was a Kirkland-based real estate company, but what they were doing was going after the homes in the Hilltop neighborhood that they were seeing as a Black neighborhood, you know, and using a Black face to do this, to go after these homes. And so these are the things we were seeing. And unfortunately, some folks took the bite and sold their homes to move into, you know, senior facilities, so on and so forth. So we're seeing those practices happen. So a large part of what we are aiming towards in our affordable housing ministry is to really bring folks back to the community who were displaced, or folks who were in danger of being displaced from the Hilltop community. So currently, the 4 homes that we steward, we have families of color living in those homes, whether they're single moms, single dads. They're all folks of color who have a Hilltop connection, whether it was like in 95, 96, I was displaced, or I was displaced and had to move out of the community, and now I'm able to come back. And that was the story of one of the families that is there now. Her apartment, she had to move out due to out of the Hilltop due to rising costs, moved into an apartment on the south end of town. That apartment burned down, and we were able to work with her and get her and her family back to the Hilltop neighborhood. And so it's a small piece in the bucket of what needs to be done as far as affordable housing in the community. But when we think about the families and individuals who are being displaced, these are folks of color. The percentage of home ownership in 2018, I'm not sure the numbers now, some recent numbers just came out, but in 2018, it was less than 36% of home ownership in the Hilltop was African American. And at one point, we know it was booming, and it was really bustling. So we're really trying to be a part of not displacing people. And then also not just providing homes, but we are now a part of the Pierce County Affordable Housing Consortium, where we know initiatives and different laws are going to into effect. So we want to be a part of that. And so another piece of this is a long journey, right? We know that housing is one piece. We know that images are another, and how we see our community. And as Pastor John said, Peace is a very diverse community, which is, again, one of the things that really drew me. And we entered into these spaces. If you haven't read the book by Pastor Lenny Duncan called Dear Church, I highly recommend that book. We had a focus group on this a few years ago, right before COVID hit, and that started some deep conversation for us around the white robes, and we started looking at just language that we were using, and then also what we got to was the Jesus statue that was in our sanctuary that many folks just kind of recognize that this is our symbol, this is what we see, and not understanding the history behind that. And so we had some conversation around what that meant for our congregation. And I tell you, it was probably one of the most comprehensive things that we've done. And I was coming into it like, we're doing too much. Just remove the statue on a Saturday when nobody's there, and people come in Sunday morning and it's gone, and we'll be good. But the attachment to that was much deeper, as we realized, to some folks. So long story short, because I'm getting close to time, is that we actually had it was called a retiring the Jesus statue. It was a whole ritual. We had a ceremony. Jesus was covered with a sheet and put on a dolly and moved out, but doing that in a really respectful way. But what we heard from many folks as they shared in that service was, this makes me feel more connected to my faith community now that I don't see this statue that has oppressive history. We know that the depiction of Jesus that we see on the regular is not the accurate depiction. And so that was some challenge in having some stories around people feeling connected. But also in that same vein, we had people that said, I feel now disconnected from this community. And unfortunately, they have not returned. But in that challenge, in that process, we were challenged to say, if we lose some people, that's just going to be what it is. And we have done that. In order for us to grow and for us to continue to dig deeper into this, we're going to lose and gain. We're going to lose some people. We're going to gain some people. We're going to have some headbutt conversations. But I think there are great things to come out of this. And I often will share, where is the church when it comes to conversations around race and housing and all these, that the church needs to be present and active, and having a big role in how things are moving.
Now introducing again Pastor Larry Jones from New Salem Baptist Church in Tacoma, a colleague and friend, and grateful for your willingness to be here, Pastor Larry, to share some of the good work that's happening in the community. And just in terms of a time thing, if you can go to somewhere around 7:30 or so, right? Or a little bit thereafter, and then we'll be able to break into the small groups at that point.
Oh, yeah, I think that'll work for me because I'm quick, Pastor John.
All right, well, you do what you need to do, and then we'll do breakouts again. Okay.
Exactly. We may have to just break out because I'm sure it won't take me that long. First of all, I just want to commend this group. Man, you guys are brave. And I said that to in the group when we were in the breakout, that you're brave to even tackle these subject matters. What brought New Salem on board with a group now that's known as the Racial Reconciliation Network was George Floyd. That pushed us out of the four walls, and we had Caucasian pastors who were good friends of mine. They were just confused. City Central and Puget Sound, Foursquare, and others, and they basically came and said, "Hey, Larry, what can we do?" And so that pushed all of us out of our four walls, and we've been together now 4 years. And basically, what I would want to share here in the next few minutes, I just want to share a praise report, because a lot of good work has been done. And we found out that we could do more together than we could separate. I've been pastoring since New Salem started in my home, and I've been pastoring that church now 27 years. And it was basically homogeneous congregation, but now we're multi-ethnic. And that came about by being intentional. So let me start out by saying, the first thing that I'm really proud of is that we had a backpack jam last year, and 4 or 5 of the churches came together. And I could call them out, but I won't unless you really need to know. But we came together and we gave away 2,500 backpacks. We served 1,523 families. Now that was just 4 of the churches out of the 40, but we came together as a church because what we wanted to do was show the community the church. Not a Black church, not a Caucasian church, not a Native American church. We want the community to see the church. And so the pastors got together and we said, hey guys, let's go over to Giadrone, and we're gonna give away these backpacks, full backpacks, and we want the community to see the church. And so guys, that's been our focus. We want the community to see the church. And so about 2 or 3 months ago, we put a roof on the church. The pastor was standing in the pulpit, raining, and he's got water coming down inside the pulpit. So about 4 or 5 churches came together. City Central went over and got the roofing. They brought the roofing. We paid for the labor, and the church got a brand new roof on their building. Now that never would have happened if we had just stayed in our little corner and remained a homogenous church. And we don't want to have anything to do with the white churches, Native American churches. We just want to do us. And that's been the approach in our community, and that has caused a lot of our problems. And so we put a roof on that church. That pastor was just blown away. He had a 92-year-old deacon standing out there that day, and the guy said, he said, I've never seen anything like this before. In my 92 years, I've never seen Black church and white churches come together like this and make sense. So he just stood there and cried because it was so powerful to watch how God was working. And so I said a moment ago, the cohort, we've got 70 pastors, we got 40 churches, we got 2 cohorts out of California. They flew in here this month. Many of the cohort members, they want to see what is it you guys are doing in Tacoma and Seattle and in the Kitsap County that's making such a difference in people's lives. And so they actually flew in here and bought their own tickets to come to see what was taking place in our community. So I just wanted to share that with Pastor John. So basically, it's been worshiping together. We're bringing our young people together. City Central, Puget Sound, Foursquare, Life Center, and a few more of the churches. We had a big praise and worship with our young people, because we've heard things like, well, you know, I can't understand that kind of music. We can't understand this kind of music. When we're reading a book called The Third Option, and the third option is just what it said. It can't be your way or my way. It has to be God's way. And so we preach John 17. And as the president, that's my focal point, is John 17. That it cannot be your way or my way. And I said that to the group that was in the break room. It has to be God's way. And anytime we keep Jesus in the middle, we can't go wrong. When they came to us with George Floyd, they said, you know, Black, as a pastor, what are you going to do? I said, we're going to keep Jesus in there. As long as you keep Jesus in, you can't go wrong. Now, we start talking about your way and my way, now we got an issue. And so that's been good. We formed a prayer group that meets every third Thursday. And Pastor John, if I start going over, man, just cut me off. We formed a prayer group, and we got pastors in the room, and most of us don't look the same. We just prayed just this morning, 8 o'clock. Caucasian pastors there, Native American, Black pastors, we all in the same room. And we prayed, and one of the pastors said to me just this morning, now he's Caucasian, he's in a neighborhood church in a university place. He said, hey, Larry, can you come preach for me in 2 Sundays? I said, sure, I can. Those are the kind of things that are happening. We're swapping pulpits. I preached in more Caucasian pulpits than I have in my 27 years, in the last 4 years. I'm going to a new community in Maple Valley next week. I'm bringing Caucasian pastors into our pulpit. I said to one a while back, I said, hey, you know, you're the first Caucasian pastor or preacher. He said, I'm glad you didn't tell me that before I got up here. See, it's developing those kind of relationships. And so we're doing the work. We're putting the work in. We're not bragging. I think one of the ladies said in the break room, one of the young ladies just said a moment ago, she said, we need to do less talking and more work. And so that's what's happening in our community right now. The work is being put in. We're preparing ourselves for Manuel Ellis. And the good thing about that is that, guys, we don't walk on eggshells with each other. Initially, when we first started out, we were walking on eggshells. You know, I want to make sure I say the right thing. Now, I don't want to offend anybody, but I spent 20 years in the military, and I retired 20 years with the King County Sheriff's Office, and most of my co-workers were Caucasians. So I'm very comfortable around Caucasians. And so I said to them, guys, we got to start walking on eggshells. When I went in that house to get the bad guy, I didn't care what color that guy was, as long as he had my 45. Didn't make sure I didn't get shot in my back. And so, you know, God is just really, he's really blessing the cohort. And Lonnie would probably share more if he's here, because he's the executive director and he handles, you know, all of it. But I'm just kind of giving you our piece from Salem's viewpoint. So we're already gearing up for Manuel Ellis, because again, we're going to go with the third option. We're not going to take anybody's side. We're going to take the Lord's side. And that's been our approach. So when they come to the church and say, whose side are you on? What direction you're going? We're going with the Lord. We're going to keep the gospel in the middle. And you can't go wrong. And so just a couple more things. We brought together 2 podcasts. You can just do racial reconciliation in Tacoma, and they'll pop up, and you can see that we're dealing with those subject matters about doing justice and whatnot. Our 10, and we go, like I said a moment ago, we go around to each other churches and we visit, we fellowship. I've got 2 churches that I pastor, but there are times when I choose not to preach on a particular Sunday so I can go and visit, like somebody like Pastor John. I haven't been over there yet. But we go around to the churches and just fellowship. I don't have to be on program to say anything. Just being there to, you know, let that brother know that I can support him. Especially the Native American churches, because most of them worship on Saturday. So that's been a real blessing to be able to go in and worship with them. So that's really it. I could probably talk about a lot of other things that are going on, but those have been the real highlights for me. And being intentional, and that's one thing I've really, the Lord has really blessed, and I've really understood, is that we have to be intentional. I have 2 Caucasian daughters and 5 who look like me, and I said to my Caucasian daughter, I want them to know, because I don't want them to feel that Dad was putting them on the spot, making a puppet out of them. But I said, look, guys, we need to be intentional. I need to see you in the praise team. You can sing, and they can. Beautiful voice. And so one got on, I said, I need you to greet people as they come in, so that the leadership of the church looks like what we want people to see. And so God has blessed us in that way. So thank you so much, Pastor John, and to the group for the opportunity. Just kind of share what God is doing. I know some of you were saying that not a whole lot is happening, but I have to disagree. It's happening in Kitsap County, Pierce County, King County, in California. God is moving. And so keep doing what you're doing. Keep being as bold as you are, because I was really impressed. I don't see a whole lot of people who look like me tonight, but we need to come to the table. And I said to the group in the breakout room, unforgiveness is a sin too. That's why John 17 is so strong. We can talk about what people have done to us. And you know, most of the time, it really hasn't happened to you personally. but at the same time, the Lord also told us to be a person that can forgive. And he said, I want them to be one, as Jesus is talking. He said, I want them to be one like you and I are one. He was talking to the Father. And so that's what we want. We want to be one. So thanks, Pastor John. Appreciate you.
Right, please do.
Let me put my hand down before I forget. So for me, I'm always just reminded that, half the battle in this work, and I've been doing a deep dive into anti-racism work for a few years, is showing up. It's just like showing up and being present, right? So I'm really, like Larry had mentioned, just glad to see faces on the screen of people that are willing to show up, so that we can do the work. And as far as a congregation, I'm not affiliated with a congregation. I'm kind of a pluralist of sorts as far as religion goes, but I do interfaith engagement as my job at Associated Ministries. And so for me, just being able to share what I learn with all of the different traditions that I work with, and to help them to be able to embrace their work with anti-racism, and maybe, how they can get involved in the bigger picture. It's just always good to be reminded of the work, and that what am I trying to say? That if we all come together, right? If everybody, even just some of us, are doing this hard work, I'm hopeful, and I really appreciate the stories that I heard today.
Thank you, Sandy. Yes, Joe. Unmute yourself,
Okay, thank you.
please.
Yeah, I'm unmuted.
Okay.
I just wanted to share with Larry and Cynthia from the second group the chat group that we were in. I found that quote, and I was going to share this quote with everyone. And it may have some resonate with some people. It was in a speech that was given by Martin Luther King on March 19th in Clarksdale, Mississippi. And in that speech, he said, "We're going to let our children know that the only philosophers that lived were not Plato and Aristotle, but W.E.B. Du Bois and Alan Locke came through this universe, or came through the universe." And that is a direct quote by Martin Luther King. And it kind of, for me, kind of sets the whole tone of the meeting and everything we had. And I'll just leave it there.
Thank you, Joe. Phyllis.
I think that one of the things that struck me anew was the importance of the symbols that our churches use: white robes, the Caucasian Christ, the songs. Jesus will make me whiter than snow in the hymn book. That kind of thing we need to be a heck of a lot more careful about and more thoughtful about.
Thank you. John.
Grateful to Pastor Larry. Stepping out, the courage to take a risk, just being in relationship, and then which all the folks who have participated in the Racial Reconciliation Network are doing something new in the climate of our United States right now, and then keeping Christ central, and being intentional about meeting, about relationship, and then seeing what emerges. It was really cool just to see. I mean, I was thinking about organically how something just grows. God grows something, whether it's Backpack Jam or the Roof Project or Pulpit Exchanges. The intentionality of being together, worshiping and sharing conversation and prayer, and then things happen. that really struck me. Thank you, Pastor Larry, for that.
Thank you, Pastor John.
Thank you, John.
Mhm.
Ted.
Yes, I want to thank Larry especially. He really opened my eyes to some very exciting things, especially what he's trying to do with his prayer group that he has, and so many other good possibilities. So many I can't name them, except that was very exciting to meet him and to see him be a part of this. And I hope we can have continued connections. I like to see us visit each other's churches from time to time.
Yes, sir.
Amen.
Really, very, very, very good. And do some projects together as possibilities as well. So I just want to thank you for coming and being a part of this. It's very, very, very helpful.
And thank you, Ted. Anyone else? We just have a couple more minutes.
I think Cynthia has her hand raised.
Oh, okay, Cynthia.
Well, this is my first time in this type of group, and it's just lovely to be present with everyone on the same page, pretty much, coming at it in different ways. I like what Pastor John says, to see what comes out of all of this, but being very intentional. The idea of word and deed. And I see the deed in Larry's work and his reconciliation, Pastor Larry, and then with peace and the affordable housing, and just those are the ways, as Pastor Larry says, that we show the community, the church, and then out of that comes more conversation. But you're bringing people out of their silos under this. I think it's very exciting.
Thank you, Cynthia. Tom and Noel. I see a hand there. Was that intentional?
No, that wasn't us, but we really appreciated this. Thanks to everybody who put it together. Thank you so much.
Joe, did you want to speak again?
If I can, I would love to say something. We have a group here in Tacoma called Meaningful Conversations. You might have seen it, and I would invite everybody. And last night we had one on race and raciality here in Tacoma, and they have those 1 or 2 a week. It's called Meaningful Conversations in Tacoma, and anyone and everyone is more than welcome to come and join in. And there's usually 2 or 3 different readings, and people can talk and discuss and really what's in your heart. And it's a really, really powerful group. It's been going on. We started before COVID. Then when COVID hit, we all went into our cocoons and went on Zoom, and everybody got pretty good at Zoom, but we're all coming out now and talking and meeting up. And so if anybody's interested, you're more than welcome to attend.
Thank you for that invitation, Joe. We're coming to the end of our time. Thank you to everyone. Every sharing was a blessing, I think, to all of us. And this time together has been powerful, challenging, and hopeful, certainly. Thank you again to Pastor John and to Brendan and to Pastor Larry. Your gifts and your willingness to share them are building community, and I'm really grateful for that. Lastly, I wanted to let you know that as congregations and as people that are part of the congregations around race group, we've done a lot of things like pulpit exchanges and theater presentations and after play discussions and storytelling and blanket exercises and workshops like this. But we're looking to the future about some of the things that we might want to address. And so I wanted to give you sort of a little list of the things that we've been talking about so that it might pique your interest and you'll watch out for them. We're going to be doing some work around equity in housing, equity in education, equity in healthcare. That's all so important in this subject matter. The tragedy of missing and murdered Indigenous women and actions we can take to help stop the violence. How communities of faith can support Native Americans. White supremacy culture and its antidotes. And reparations. These are some of the things that we will be bringing to the community in the future. I don't know in what order that will be or how many for this next year, but beginning next fall, watch for information coming through to you. Sandy will be sending out to the email list about what our next workshops will be about. I really hope that you will not only come yourselves, but share with your friends that we need each other to be part of these conversations. So receive this benediction, friends. May the strength of God sustain you. May the power of God preserve you. May the hand of God protect you. May the way of God direct you. May the justice of God inspire you. And may the love of God go with you tonight and forevermore. God bless you all. Good night.